turnout, participation in the event. I hope we'll have a productive, fruitful conversation this afternoon. Since we have limited time, without further ado, I want to introduce this wonderful panel that we have this afternoon. But before that, of course, I want to thank the ICYF Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum for putting together this really great event that would bring together a lot of people, youth from across not only the Balkans actually, but all the Muslim world, to discuss important processes, events that pertain to the Balkans in this event. So really hearty thanks to the ICYF for organizing this Balkan Youth Forum. Now, this afternoon, our topic, our panel discussion topic is need for dialogue and cooperation among youth of the Balkans, role of governments and policymakers. So for this particular issue, we have three distinguished panelists we have, all of whom have a very important, significant background to speak on this matter. So I first want to introduce the panel to you. Then I want to give the floor to our panelists in the same order that I present them. So first, we have Mr. Sedat Dedic. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Of course, I hope my pronunciation is apt and correct. Mr. Sedat Dedic, who is an assistant professor of law at the Faculty of Law at the University of Zenica. He is specializing on issues of administrative law, constitutional law, human rights and human freedoms, and economic policy. His PhD dissertation is about, which he finished at the University Cemal Bijedic Mostar, was titled Constitutional Role of State in Economic Policy with special focus on Bosnia and Herzegovina. And his master's thesis was also about constitutional law and human rights. It was titled Constitutional and Law Position of Right on Private Entrepreneurship. So he's studying at the intersection of law and economics. But his background also touches upon the issue that we have at hand in this panel. He held many different positions in different universities, in different faculties. But most pertinent to our subject matter here, he was also an advisor he was a member of the advisory board of mayor at Zenica city. And his basically job there was to advise. He was an advisor. He was a member of the advisory committee on the youth issues in Zenica city. Together with his expertise in the field of law, he also has an interest and a background on matters pertaining to youth. We are very delighted to have him in our panel today. Our second guest is Saad Sahman. I hope again I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Mr. Said Sahman is, and please correct me if I'm wrong when you take the floor, is a member of the Bosnia National National Council in Montenegro. He is currently a PhD student, but he holds a master of a degree in economics from the University of Sarajevo at Bosnia-Herzegovina in the School of Economics and Business, and he also holds a BA in management from the same institution. Mr. Said has held many different positions, political positions, important ministerial positions that pertain to youth. Apart from teaching at University Mediterranean and University of Sarajevo, he and also serving in administrative positions at the state company. He actually was the head of the cabinet of the minister for the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare in Montenegro. Before that, he was an advisor to the Minister of Labor and Social Welfare, and he was advisor to the Vice President of the Parliament. And he was, before that, he was president of the Youth Forum of the Bosniak Party of Montenegro. So his political work has always touched upon the question of the youth in Montenegro, maybe broadly speaking in the Balkans. He represented his party at the Brussels. He was a delegate of the Bosniak Party. So he has an important background on this question. So I welcome him to our panel. Our third guest is Volkan Gültekin. I'm confident that I'm pronouncing his name rightly because he's a fellow Turkish citizen. He's from Turkey. He has an education in political science and international relations, BA in Ankara University and a master's at Middle East Technical University, specializing on international relations, but also touches upon the political economy of the Balkans. His master's thesis was titled Neoliberal Recipes to Post-Conflict Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Case of Privatization. So basically interrogating the relationship between economic neoliberalization and post-conflict recovery. Mr. Volkan Gültekin has held very interesting positions in the Turkish International Cooperation and Development Agency, known as Tikka, which is under the Prime Ministry in the Republic of Turkey. He has held the positions of the desk officer for the Balkans in Ankara. He was a Tikka representative in Ashgabat in Turkmenistan. He was a desk officer for African region, desk officer for Ukraine, Tikka representative in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and desk officer for Bosnia-Herzegovina. So he has a very well-established background in the Balkans, but also in the surrounding region. And I hope he will bring this experience to bear in our conversation in this panel. Again, I want to welcome all our panelists for our discussion today. And as I said, the question at hand for us today is the need for dialogue and cooperation among youth of the Balkans, specifically about the role of governments and policymakers. So what can the governments and policymakers do to further cooperation among Balkan youth? What are the obstacles? What are the possible solutions to that? So again, without further ado, I want to give the floor to Mr. Sedat Dedic. The floor is yours. By the way, since we have only 3 panelists, I think we have the luxury of giving them 7 minutes to deliver their speeches. Please, Mr. Sedat, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and I'm happy to have opportunity to share my understanding, my experience, some views about the role of government and policymakers. So when we say government and policymakers, sometimes we can understand that it is something abstract, but these people who are in position to rule government or to make to policy to participate in policy making are some of us. So as a first, I will share some kind of my understanding, especially position of Muslim youth, and then I will present suggest 4 fields how we can make contribution of in a way to improve cooperation for citizens of Balkan. For me, from perspective as a Muslim youth, I think that it's a very important time for change and to reassess Muslim youth goals. Muslim youth has to base its work on Uswatun Hasanatun, role model principle, what means that we, as representatives of young Muslims in Europe and world, we have to work more on our obligations and our contribution. We have to do more for our societies where we live in our countries. I want to underline that we should less talk about only Muslim rights and Muslim needs in Europe and world, and we should more talk about human rights and human needs in Europe and world and Balkan, of course, and we should more talk about youth Muslim contribution to world today and in the future in modern time. We should work more to improve our societies in all its areas. We, as Muslim youth, should work more to make better life conditions in all countries for all citizens where we live. On this way, we will do our Islamic Uswatun Hasanatun obligation to be a role model to our neighbors. And inshallah, with God's help, on this way, we will give a contribution what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us as a Muslims, to be the best part of our societies and to be the most useful part of our societies. After this view, I want to share 4 fields where we can make some kind of contribution. So very often we are looking for some miracles or something completely new. And on that way, very often we are forgetting what we have in our hands. First field, what we have to make contribution, what we have to use more is to ask for rule of law. In our countries, in our modern countries where we live, in this moment, if we look in our law system, in international law documents, we will find that there are very great solutions. But what we have in practice is that there is no following these law rules. So asking for rule of law is a basic condition for establishing better cooperation, communication, better results. Very often there is too much discussion about different questions, what we already have solution in law documents in every country, in international documents. So it is the first field. Second field is, of course, connected to law again. It is the question of human rights. Very often when we have violation of rights and violation of communication, it's based on violation of basic human rights. We are just, again, have to ask and promote just realizing in practice documents about human rights. Believe me, if there is a realization of rule of law and if there is realization of human rights, it's, in practice, according to documents we already have, it would be much better position of cooperation of situation in the region and in Europe generally. Third, suggest what is very important to have in mind. 10 or 15 years ago, in the European Union had a very huge campaign, all equal, all different. But I'm afraid that in last time there is more and more all equal, and that part, all different, is starting to be forgotten. So one of the most important reasons why socialism and communism didn't survive as a system, because they didn't respect diversities. We have to remind all of us and Europe generally that we have to respect diversities. And again, it will be according to law, domestic and international law documents, what we already have. These are not things what we have to ask to get. We already have it in documents. And the fourth, last thing I see is as very important, and maybe or I see as youth branch of this organization has a very good space, is promoting intercultural and interreligious meeting cooperation of youth in Balkans, especially among successful youth in Balkans. These people will lead the region in the future. And this is the way, if we are making seminars, if we are making different kind of events where we are collecting different culture and different religion people who are coming from different cultures and different religions from Balkan. We will have youth people without prejudices who will have a communication, who will understand well, and who will in the next part of their life, and they are starting to lead some position, they will have good and right understanding of their neighbors and the way how they can cooperate. So rule of law, human rights, respecting diversities, and intercultural and interreligious dialogue as a very important project what we have to have all the time. And at the beginning, that Muslims should work more and promote more work for everybody because of Uswatun Hasanatul role model principle, what we have obligations as Muslims. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Sedat Dedic. I think this was a reminder of first putting our house in order before actually talking about something broader and bigger. I think the entire emphasis on the importance of rule of law and respecting rights and understanding each other is very well placed. After all, as Muslims, we all know that justice is the biggest and the penultimate injunction of our religion that we adhere to. And I think if we cannot put it in practice at home, it's difficult to ask it from someone else. I hope Mr. Sedat will get into the issue of what role can governments and policymakers have on this. Can get into this question more in the Q&A session at the end. Thank you, Mr. Sedat, for this presentation. And now I turn to Mr. Said Sahman for his introductory remarks. The floor is yours.
Very much, Mr. Ismail. I hope that you hear me well and
yes,
you can see me well. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm really, really glad to have all of you here. Even we are online, I hope we will be soon in opportunity to see each other in person and talk about these very important topics in person and have, I hope, inshallah, a very good product. Greetings for all of you. Greetings from Montenegro, one small Mediterranean country. Montenegro is the member of the NATO and the applicant for the member of EU. But for this topic, maybe it's less important. And I will try to share my personal experience, considering that I gained my professional experience in the last 8 years in the Parliament of Montenegro, and then in the executive board in the government of Montenegro. And I had the opportunity to see from the inside how things work in the realistic framework. First of all, thank you for a very nice introduction, Mr. Ismail. And I want to congratulate the organizer on this excellent coordination of this event. And I want to say that your methods, like this Balkan Youth Forum, consultation among young people like my colleagues and me, is the best way how to make this part of the world a better place for life. Gathered around the objective of promoting the well-being of all nations, like the main goal of the civilized world, increase dialogue and understanding between each of our sides. Our all have to be so connected with each other and promote values like solidarity. As you know, the Corona crisis shows how it is important, especially for the new generation on the Balkans. This, for us young people, have to be one of the key priorities. The aim is to meet with many initiatives, positive energy, as well as with projects that will have valid result in youth policies. The governments around all our countries should be the partner in such initiatives. For us youth, we need more idea that unites us and the less divisions and disagreement that only distancing us from each other. We don't need that. We need more to be unique, more to be connected, to talking, to exchange the experience, and I'm sure that success will come. I believe that we all agree that one of the key problems, I'm sure in all of countries, is youth unemployment, namely a high educated workforces. After that, we have brain drain and leaving our region to the countries of the Western Europe or maybe United States. This should be separated from the mobility of young people, which I think is good for young people to acquire knowledge and skills in the region or somewhere around the world, but then to return to their countries and to apply it in practice. It must be a strategic matter of the government policy also. Key state institution must provide opportunities for numerous exchanges in order to... Are you hearing me? Everything is okay?
Yes, we do hear you, but if our guests, our friends can also mute themselves, that would be better in hearing you.
I can continue?
Sure, you can.
I hear some voices and I have some problems. Well, the key state institution must provide opportunities for numerous exchanges in order to gain new experience and training in the field of education, create joint projects and programs, and that will contribute to a better quality of life of young people. That's very important, the better quality of life for young people in the region of Balkan. A clear vision of youth politics should come like the outcome of cooperation, representative youth organization, government or the ministry which feel this, and parliament like lawmaker institution. Clear identification of problems and readiness to solving is an indicator of good cooperation between that sides. The role of the parliament to adopt the laws should be proactive, perhaps to extend that there are clubs of member of parliaments who are younger than 35 years of age, maybe from the different political parties, that there is a cooperation between them that primarily refers to legal solution concerning young people and their future. Very significant segment of all this topic is economic side, of course. How to help our economic activities, to develop small and medium business, to creating jobs, especially for young people who have high education. Imperative in the coming period must be a continuation of the affirmation of the principles of youth policy that should be based on universal values, human and minority rights, like my colleague Sedat mentioned, equality and the equal chance for all. Respecting of identity, of course, is important. I think that our way has no alternative. Such a commitment is the only guarantee that we can build together a Balkan based on values, on dialogue and the futures. We need to understand that the key of the future is investing in youth people who need to change what's happened. They need to build bridges of reconciliation and cooperation. I think that our joint action among the states, contacts, and the networking that each of has, we can give good result in this youth initiative. It takes time, work, and efforts, but I'm sure that success will come. And thank you for your attention. I'm very open to have a conversation after this, and don't be hesitate to share your experience also, and I hope that we will have a good discussion after this introduction. Thank you very much, Mr. Ismail.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saad. This was a very, very fruitful contribution to our discussion today. By the way, I just want to let our participants know that you are welcome to ask questions to our panel. At the end, we will have a Q&A session toward the end. If you want to add something, if you want to ask a question to all the panel or one of the panelists, please take note. You can ask your question by saying your question or writing into to the chat section here on the Zoom. Thank you so much again, Mr. Saad. This was very valuable. I think the emphasis on youth unemployment is key, especially when you look at from the perspective of governments and policymakers. The entire Arab Spring, people were writing about the youth bulge and youth unemployment in places like Egypt and Tunisia, which then really ended up in a burst of events, in a burst of an eruption, basically, of social order. So that's why this youth unemployment is such a huge issue that policymakers have to tackle with. I think that emphasis is very well taken. Now, we now listen to Mr. Saad, a lawmaker, Mr. Sedat, a law interpreter and teacher. And now we can turn to our third panelist, Mr. Volkan Gültekin, an executioner, not maker, not teacher. And now we would like to hear what Mr. Volkan have to say about the prospect of dialogue and cooperation and what governments and policymakers can contribute to it. The floor is yours, Mr. Volkan Gültekin.
Thank you, Mr. İsmail Ailece. Can you hear me well?
Sure, we are hearing you well.
Okay. Dear participants, thank you for having me as one of the guest speakers in this session. It's a great pleasure for me to address such a distinguished audience. Unlike other panelists' valuable presentations, my speech will be in a more bureaucratic manner, but I hope, as Mr. Yaylacı mentioned, it would be useful to understand Tikka's approach to the issue, and it would be insightful as to how governments see the dialogue, the youth, and the Balkans region. You may know, but I'd like to mention briefly, Tikka is Turkey's official technical assistance and development cooperation organization. It was originally founded upon the disintegration of Soviet Union immediately after the Cold War, with a view to ensuring the integration of Soviet republics and especially the countries of Central Asia with the world. To date, Tikka has developed and conducted a great deal of projects and programs to share Turkey's experience and expertise with friendly and brotherly countries. As to the Balkans and the role of governments and policymakers for establishing dialogue among the youth, first, I would like to tell you a little bit about Tikka's Balkans policy. Southeastern Europe, or the Balkans, from the very outset, as you know, is one of the most important focal points for Turkish foreign policy and for Tikka in particular. The region is important because first, it is the Turkey's gateway to Europe. Second, Turkey has close historical, cultural, religious, social, ethnic, and linguistic ties with the region. And in addition to these, what made the Balkans more important for Turkey in the last 3 decades is the tragedies and conflicts the region went through during the 1990s, That means, from Turkish perspective, any instability or unrest in the region would have direct impacts on Turkey's economy, security, or social fabric. So the government or Turkish state republic for the maintenance of stability in the region is the first and foremost priority for Turkey. With this perspective, Tikka believes that people and countries who know each other well can overcome their problems through dialogue and mutual understanding. Because without a dialogue, but I mean all modalities and forms of dialogue, from state to state relations to state to society mechanisms, or be it intercommunal, intracommunal, or interregional dialogue, a peaceful and prosperous region would be beyond our reach. Turkey, as a country, co-chairing the Alliance of Civilizations initiative and being at the forefront of struggle against Islamophobia, attaches great importance to dialogue in order to achieve peaceful coexistence in the region, which in turn provides development, stability, and prosperity. This phenomenon requires that Turkish foreign policy and Tikka have to show more responsibility and play more active role in creating and facilitating mechanisms of dialogue. Within this framework, Tikka cooperates with the Balkan countries in their development efforts and strives for the improvement of relations and dialogue within the region. And on the other side, since the youth build the future, and strong sense of dialogue and cooperation among the youth holds an exceptional place in Tikka's agenda. In this context, Tikka firmly supports the youth directly, be it directly or indirectly, via developing projects in order to pave the way for establishing the atmosphere of dialogue and mutual understanding among the youth. With a variety of projects on, for example, let's say vocational training, organizing summer camps, income and employment generation activities, provision support for the cultural, artistic, sportive projects, offer scholarships, student exchange programs, and also in the sector of media and broadcasting for the promotion of youth and promotion of voice of youth and enhancement of dialogue in the region. And before I finish, as a final remarks, I would like to tell a little bit as to how to get financial support from Tikka. First of all, you can apply to any Tikka field offices in 62 countries all around the world, or any Turkish embassies. There is no any format for the application. Anyone, any of you, any NGO, any local authority or governmental body can apply Tikka for a financial support, but make sure your application includes information about clearly stated goals and objectives of your project, financial details, target groups or partners and other stakeholders. So, as you see, applying for a funding to Tikka is easy as pie, and we are looking forward to see your project proposals. Many thanks for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Volkan Gültekin, for the contribution. the valuable contribution. Probably the most practical of the three contributions this afternoon. You even went so far as to ask applications for funding from Tikka, so that hastens the process, I guess. I think, and your emphasis on vocational training, student exchange programs, promotion of the voice of the youth are all important, but you touched upon something, and we have a question about it. It caught my attention, which is I question the problem of Islamophobia, and we have a question from one of our participants on that. I will ask this question, but before we have Mr. Said raising his hand. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Regarding to the speech of Mr. Volkan from Tikka organization, I just want to emphasize one very good things what Tikka do, for example, in Montenegro, and how connect two countries, how look like the bridge between Turkey and Montenegro. A lot of projects, a lot of investment in agriculture, in some very crucial institution like hospital, like the buildings of the very important institution. And I just want to say that it's very good what they are doing, and to emphasize it. And regarding of this introduction of colleagues Volkan, and I want to congratulate Tikka, but they are doing really good stuff on the space of the Balkans. Just to add one short comment, and I apologize for this.
Oh, thank you so much for the contribution. Again, let me go through this topic of Islamophobia and turn this as a question to Mr. Sedat and Mr. Said. Since this was posed by Mr. Volkan, I take this as a question to our two guests who are actually living in the Balkans. How do you think? Do you think the question of Islamophobia is real for you? That's probably the first question to ask. Or this is something that is exaggerated, made up, or something, or you face it real on the ground in social relations. And actually, Mr. Sedat actually talked about this a little bit in his contribution, in his speech, about what Muslims should do to be uswa hasana, to be good role models. But is Islamophobia a real thing that you stumble upon, and what should be done? What Muslims should do, what non? And another question that we have from our participants is that what non-Muslims can do to overcome Islamophobia. Would you like to address this question? Maybe again, starting with Mr. Sedat.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. For the first place, when we are talking about term Islamophobia, we should understand that this is very problematic term, because term Islamophobia is talking about in its frame. When we see what is acts of Islamophobia, we will find that it will be violation of human rights. So in the same time, you have a word phobia in part of the term. For example, for the same crimes, when you are making for Muslims, it is Islamophobia, phobia, and for when you are making same crimes to Jewish people, it is anti-Semitism, and it has its low position and punishment for it. It's very problematic if you want to punish somebody for phobia. So I prefer to talk about anti-Islamic acting and anti-Islamic violation. Talking about Islamophobia, what non-Muslims can do, I always understand that it is a wrong approach from Muslims to talk what somebody else can do. Very often, when you see situation, especially in Europe, I had plenty of conversation with different organizations and Muslim communities in Europe, and I said to them, if you come to Bosnia and Herzegovina, my country, I'm Muslim, and if you want only benefits from my country, if you are not ready to contribute enough to my country, I will be against you. It is not because Islam. It is because you are not making contribution to my country. But if you are making a contribution to my country, if you are as a Muslims, if you are improving society for all of us, it is the best way to fight Islamophobia and to show contribution of Islam. It is very wrong way to show Islam as a part of problem. It's never. It's not important if you are showing that Muslims are making problem, or that somebody else is making problems to Muslims. In any way, it is Islam as part of problem, but it is not Islam. Islam is solution. So our attitude and our approach have to be contribution, solving the problems, and on that way we will naturally make a stronger position and clear position of Muslims in every part of the world.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sadat. Mr. Said, would you like to comment on that?
Just a few comments. I absolutely agree what my colleague said about that. But considering to my state, for example, we have different kind of problem. Inside the majority religion group, you have two ethnic groups who are very strong, Montenegrin and Serbs, for example, and you have problem among them. Muslims, like minorities, and between Muslims, among the Muslims, you have the Bosniaks, for example, who are dominant. On the other side, you have Albanians, who are also the part of the Montenegro. You haven't problem. You haven't problem among the Muslims. We haven't problem between Muslims and Orthodox. But you have the biggest problem in Montenegro is between Orthodox side, for example, between that two very, very strong ethnic groups inside the Orthodox group. And I want to add just everything is up to us. What we want to show the Islam is the religion of the tolerance, of dialogue, of solidarity, and we have to do to promote that and to emphasize that on every place. In Montenegro, it's not really problem about this topic of Islamophobia. Thank you.
In Montenegro, this is a real problem, or it's not a real problem? You said
it's not a real problem about.
It's not a real problem. It's not something you face on a daily basis.
Oh, that is not daily. That's our daily problem. That's not the case in Montenegro.
Okay. Mr. Volkan, you are in Ankara right now, are you? You are,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. For this question, I turn to my colleagues from the region. That's why I asked them. But if there's something you want to add, of course, you're most welcome.
No, thanks.
No, okay.
Okay.
I think it's very important to keep in mind Mr. Sedat's care with which he's approaching the term. The very term Islamophobia is problematic, as he suggested, because it makes Islam part of the problem. It makes Islam something that is attached to a fear, an irrational fear, but a fear nonetheless. But here the problem actually is a bigger problem of racism. And one of our participants wrote here, an anti-Muslim racism. Actually, if you look at the academic literature on Islamophobia, it's actually part and parcel of the broader title of racism. Actually, it's an irrational bias toward a group of people. But of course, sometimes it's easy to talk about criticizing Islamophobia and they do this, they do that. But also we have to look back on Muslims and what we do to make the problem bigger, actually. And some of our participants also pointed out this aspect of it, I think. And one participant suggested to us to look at the European Islamophobia report. Thank you for sharing it. Okay, do you have any other questions from our participants?
Yes.
Okay, Aisha, go ahead. From Nigeria.
Yes. Yeah, my question is that, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So, yes, my question is that on the third person that speaks on the issue of perspective of dialogue and lawmakers. So my question here is, he said that he's going to help the youth, the dialogue and cooperation of the youth. So how is he going to assist the youth? He said that it's financially support from Tikka Vulcan. So how are the youths going to benefit with that, his support? That's the question.
Okay, a more specific question to Mr. Volkan about how Tikka policies, Tikka funds are specifically helping the youth.
Yes.
And the floor is yours, Mr. Volkan. Maybe shortly, because we have other hands, other questions.
Thank you for the question. You must propose a project, and with a good presentation, we assess your proposal, and we can easily fund or finance your proposal. That's it. But we don't pay in cash, but we deliver our contributions in kind. And yes.
For example, Mr. Volkan, is Tikka providing scholarship to students? There's a question from Bokai Sherif from Liberia. Is Tikka providing scholarship for students to study in Turkey or somewhere else?
Yeah, in some circumstances, we provide scholarships for a specific subject which Tikka or Turkey is very interested in. So they can try. You may try your.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Since the time is running out, I want to be quick. So I turn to first Nada Dosti from Albania for her question.
Yes, thank you. I'm Nada Dosti from Albania. I'm a journalist. I have written many project proposals for Tikka, but I have been told that we don't collaborate with individuals, only with NGOs. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. But you may come together a couple of your friends, and you may establish an NGO. Then we can deliver or extend our support to you. So don't limit yourself, please.
Okay, great. So we have Hafız Gifari Berlianto.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Good night, everyone. My name is Hafiz Gifari Berlianto from Indonesia, and I would like maybe to ask Mr. Syed Sahman. Sorry if I pronounce the name wrongly. To Mr. Sahman, I would like to ask, since you mentioned that youth, especially in the Balkans, should also be supported by, for example, the officials like the government officials. So what my question is, in the next few years, maybe in this decade, in the 2020s, will the Balkan countries give more support to the youth in the region, for example, giving them chances to study abroad, or maybe fund their social projects if they have, especially in the countries in the Balkan region? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Saida? Mr. Saad? Can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Thank you for your question, and greetings for Indonesia and Jakarta. It's my pleasure to have participants from there. Yes, as you know, in Montenegro, you have the Regional Cooperation Youth Office. That is the outcome of the Berlin process. For example, the Balkan states are mostly interested to be the member of EU, and the outcome of that is one of the outcome of this is Berlin process, which said that you have to organize the offices for the youth cooperate between Tirana, Sarajevo, Podgorica, Skopje, Belgrade, Pristina, and to have one office like that, which can you exchange your experience when you have you have to some social project, to have economic entrepreneurship project, etc. And you can visit them official website. It's the Regional Youth Cooperation Office. If you need any more information about that, you can contact me. Be free to do that, and I hope that organizer will provide us or email address or contact phone or WhatsApp group to be in contact also after that. But such initiatives are good, for mobility of the young. To, for example, someone from Montenegro or from Bosnia go in Albania or in some of the other countries in the region to study there, to pick up some knowledge, some skills, to learn the other language, etc. But what is important to back in them country, homeland, and to realize, to apply all that what he is or she is do there.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can have one more question, if there is any. Do you have any questions, other friends? Saida, Mrs. Saida Mohammed from Jordan?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, it's not a question, it's just a small comment.
Sure.
Here in Jordan, we are Muslim country, and this Islamic phobia already is between our companies. Really, we suffered by hijab, we suffered by university. Maybe it's not clear for all, but in the behavior of Islamic people, they don't like to treat or to employ the woman who wear hijab. And it's not clear for all. And this is what I'm saying. This phobia is created by foreign society, and it's go to our society. And it's very bad behavior from our Muslim here in our country. This is my comment.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Saida. I think you're pointing to a very, very important issue, which is the question of whether Islamophobia is something that only non-Muslims do toward Muslims, or maybe some even harsher form of Islamophobia is in place in Muslim countries by Muslims toward Muslims. I think this is a very big question, very big issue, which I think directs us all the way back to Mr. Sedat's point about the importance of rule of law, rights, respecting rights, being tolerant toward other understandings, other practices of Islam. I think that's a very important point that you're making. Thank you so much for raising this issue. Okay. Unfortunately, we ran out of time because we have a very limited time, actually only 40 minutes for this panel. We have good questions coming up about why don't we care about China's Uyghur Muslims and other questions. I think these are very important issues that we care deeply. But since this panel is devoted to the cooperation of youth in the Balkans, of course, we didn't have a chance to come to this point. Otherwise, we care about Uyghur Muslims just as we care about the youth in the Balkans. Thank you so much again for the distinguished panel, Mr. Sedat Dedic, Mr. Sedat Sahman, and Mr. Volkan Gültekin, for your valuable contributions, for sharing your ideas, and also to the rest of the participants, some 80 participants who joined this conversation, who enriched this conversation with questions and comments. Thank you again. I hope you will have a fruitful, productive conversation in the rest of the day and the following of the events. So with that, I give the floor to Mrs. Sümeyye to end the panel if she's not available, I will be ending the panel.
I'm here, Mr. Ismail. Thank you so much. It has been a really